Chapter 3. The Core Wrath was a heavily armored box. Inside, the Core Wrath had a wide corridor down the center, built for heavy infantry bots to march through shoulder to shoulder. Both sides were full of deactivated heavy infantry bots locked into transport racks, hundreds of them, standing upright in their frames, heads down, arms locked at their sides. The battle bots were waiting to be switched on and pointed at whatever needed to be crushed. The battle bots had no empathy or compassion of any kind. A crewman walked her to a compartment near the front of the vessel. It had 2 bunks, a fold-down table, and 2 chairs. An officer was already seated at the table. He stood when she entered. "Detective Turner and Dras Moore, they told me I'd have company for the transit." He extended a hand. Kess shook it. 100% parity meant not only did she look human, but she felt human as well. He gestured to the opposite chair. "Please." He was mid-40s, lean, with a weathered face and close-cut hair going gray at the temples. The insignia on his uniform said he was a colonel. Kess stowed her bag and sat on the chair. She was aware of Colonel Moore appraising her. He started with her legs and worked his way up. "Long transit," he said. "How far are you going?" "Savitar I." "Savitar, that's interesting. You know it?" Moore nodded. "Never been there. Too rich for a poor colonel. Why do they need a GBI detective on Savitar I?" "That's what I intend to find out," she said. "I hear there's been some civil unrest," Colonel Moore said. "Seems that's everywhere these days," she said. He was fishing, probably just bored, she thought. She nodded at the hold behind them. "Why all the firepower?" she asked. Moore leaned back. "The Bellin March, it's on the eastern edge of King Varen's territory. The locals have been burning tax offices and attacking the local magistrates." "Do they have cause?" "Rebelling against one's king is never justified," he said. "That's a lot of firepower for a handful of farmers. Better to be prepared." "You expecting a lot of resistance?" she asked. "Maybe. The farmers have been told they don't need to bow to authority by agitators who cross the border from Duke Pugh-Rall's lands, stir the pot, and then disappear back across the line. I can easily put down the unrest. What I can't do is cross into Pugh-Rall's territory to cut off the source." "Why not?" "Because the Bellin March belongs to King Varen, and the land across the border belongs to Duke Pugh-Rall, and crossing that line without authorization from the Emperor's Council is an act of war. And the Council won't authorize it. The Council can't agree on what day it is." "What about the Emperor?" Moore almost smiled. "The Emperor issued a proclamation last month, called for calm, urged dialogue. Very inspiring." Kess knew that the planets that made up the Empire were a confederation of semi-independent territories under a shared emperor. However, he was elected by a council of the most powerful rulers within the system. It was like a quilt where each patch had its own ruler, a king, duke, prince, or powerful church leader, and each had their own army. The emperor's decrees, unless backed by the council, had little meaning. The discussion gradually faded, and Kess used the time to recall the Savitar briefing packet and scanned it again. It was an advantage she had over humans. The briefing was in her memory, and she could recall it in an instant. She didn't forget details. They were all there. The shuttle detached from the Core Wrath and made the crossing in 40 minutes. Kess watched as Savitar I filled the port. It was enormous. The city was built in stacked tiers, each one miles across, wrapped in an outer shell of reinforced composite and transparent paneling that let the star's light pour through. As the shuttle curved toward the port, she could see tier upon tier, like a city that had been sliced into layers and reassembled vertically. The shuttle docked at port level 3. Kess grabbed her bag and stepped into Savitar I. Savitar I and its sister city, Savitar II, were free cities, run by officials elected by the citizens. Both cities stuck out like sore thumbs in the Empire. Had they been decrepit shitholes, no one would have cared. But they weren't. They were prosperous and their citizens led a quality standard of life. The cities were an embarrassment to rulers in the Empire at all levels. They put them in a bad light and gave people ideas. She followed the signs through customs, badged through an official courtesy lane, and walked onto the main concourse. Sergeant Den was waiting for her. He was a broad man with thick arms, and he wore the dark blue uniform of Savitar Municipal Security. He looked past Kess. "You're it?" "I'm it. What were you expecting?" she asked, noting the disappointment on his face. "I was hoping the GBI would send an army," Den said. "Instead, you got me." "No offense, detective." "None taken." Dean motioned. "This way," he said. He led her to a private car parked in the security lane outside the port terminal. They got in, and the car pulled into traffic. "What did they tell you on LEPTIS?" Den asked. "They told me you have protests that are becoming increasingly violent, and that you're overwhelmed," Kess said. Den settled into his seat. "Let me tell you what I'm actually dealing with. It's orchestrated anarchy. I can't prove it, but that's what's happening." "Go on," she said. The press reports had highlighted the protests. They said nothing about orchestration. "They protest everything. One group is against police brutality. Another protests the enforcement of work permit requirements," Den said. "The Alliance for Peace," she said. "Exactly, but there's also the Purity League," Den said. "What do they want?" "They're against the new workers." "Do the Alliance for Peace and Purity League fight each other? They seem like natural enemies," Kess asked. "Oh no, they prefer to fight us or burn the city," Den said. "What would you do if you had a free hand?" Kess asked. "I'd start arresting people," he said. But the city council won't let me. Half the council has donors who benefit from the instability. The other half are cowards who'd rather watch the city burn than make a decision someone might criticize." The car slowed, turned into a residential block, and stopped in front of a mid-rise building. Den handed her a key card. "8th floor. It's not fancy. If you need anything, let me know."